Hey guys, Jimmy here and welcome back to another video, and yes, Merry 2022. And I've decided, given that it's a new year, new me scenario, I thought the first thing that I'm going to do in this brand new year is piss off as many people as possible. Handbrakes on in, look at that! Rock! Oh my god! Because in today's video, I'm going to be, I think for the first time ever, listing my top 5 favourite racing simulators. So racing software, not like rigs, etc. Now, there's a reason why I've not done one of these videos before, is because people love their racing games. They love their racing games so much that if you disagree with them about the racing game that they like, they will come to your house and put things in your bottom. Oh, wait. Yeah, we'll stay with that, why not? Keeping the old weight, I guess. So a small disclaimer before we start. This is my personal list. It is full of biases and things that I personally like and dislike, and is not a, hey, this is a factual and stat-based on what is best simulator. It's just what I like doing in my free time, what I like driving. And I, in fact, encourage you in the comments below to put your own lists down below in the comments to give people, I guess, a more rounded view that isn't just that of a mediocre sim racing degenerate. And on that note, this video is actually sponsored by me, because right now I'm running a 15% off all merch over on my merch store. I know there's not been much going on there recently. There was a big plan last year to change things up with all the merch and how it's getting done, but that's not come to fruition yet. So old merch is still there. If you fancy picking up something cheap after Christmas, then you can do so by checking out the link below in the description. Just a quick point to say, by the way, that I am a PC sim racer. I have been pretty much forever, so if a title is not on PC, then it's not going to be on this list, unfortunately. Right, so I'm going to cheat, and so in at number 5, I'm actually going to be picking 2 different games, sims, whatever, and maybe not the best way to start, but I couldn't decide between them. And those games are Dirt Rally 2.0 and Richard Burns Rally, which I think almost couldn't be more different. First of all, it's just amazing that Richard Burns Rally is still on a best sim, favourite sim list here in 2022, given the game now I think is... How old is Richard Burns now? 16 years old, I think the game is now, which is just insane. But it's been kept alive by faithful modding communities, including, of course, Rally Sim fans, the Hungarian fellas that put together the amazing mod pack, which added so much life into the game, and also added things like support for a direct drive wheel and H-pattern, stuff like that. Technology that didn't actually exist when this game came out, which is just astounding. And I still think that today it is one of the best feeling rally simulators that you can drive. Again, mad for something that came out so long ago. And on the other side, Dirt Rally 2.0 is sort of the opposite of that experience, because whereas Richard Burns Rally requires a little bit of, well, it used to anyway, it requires a little bit of know-how to get things working, a little bit of work to get all the modern equipment working. Dirt Rally 2.0 just sort of works out of the box and has just an awesome experience in terms of immersion. The way that the cars sound, the feeling of throwing a 90s box through forests at Scotland at breakneck speed while Phil Mills is next to you having a heart attack is just, it's just awesome. And I love those games that manage to put you into that driving seat and sort of make you forget you're actually staring at a screen sitting in your mum's bed. Regardless, you'd definitely be trying out both these sims if you haven't done so already. Any rally enthusiast is going to have a hell of a time with one of the titles, let alone both of them. So for that reason, they're both sneaking in at my number 5. So in at number 4 is a game that I thought would actually end up putting higher, but after thinking about it, it came in at number 4, which is Assetto Corsa, the original one, the one that came out back in 2013. I should really have looked this shit up before I start. No, sorry, 2014, end of 2014. And whilst I forget the date, I actually remember the moment that AC was released, because I was sitting in a university lecture and it popped up on my phone that it had been released, and I made an excuse and left and went home to download Assetto Corsa, which is why I got a 3rd at uni. I was a terrible student, man. I was fucking awful. But the reason why it's on this list is because just the amount of content there is for the game. I mean, even if you only count the main official first-party content, there are so many cars and so many different tracks to choose from. It's gonna take you a long time to get through them, a very long time. Then you add into that the amazing amount of mods, third-party vehicles and tracks that have been brought into the game by people who are just passionate about cars and racing. Of course, there are modding studios like Race Sim Studio who have brought some of the best content ever for Assetto Corsa into the game. And by the time you're finished just accruing all these mods and these tracks and cars, you're going to have a game which I think has the most driving and racing content of any sim title available to it, and is actually really decent value for money. This game comes up on sale very, very often, and for the Ultimate Edition I think it usually comes in at around £9, £11, something like that, and that sort of content is amazing, because for £11 you can buy, I think, one track in iRacing, or the entirety of your Assetto Corsa library. It's pretty feckin' good value. So yeah, easy decision to put this on the list. Assetto Corsa in at number 4. In at number 3 is a game that you might not expect. Well, those who know me will expect it, but you might not expect it if you're watching this video, which is Automobilista 1, the first one. Sort of lovingly referred to as R Factor 1.8 by a lot of people, because it's a basically the original R Factor game turned up as far as it will go in terms of physics, in terms of graphics, in terms of how it feels, but not quite a modern sim title. So why have I included it? Mainly because Automobilista is one of the reasons why I had such an easy time adapting to real racing last year in the Praga. Weird saying last year now. But if you don't know, we actually had our own version of the Praga on my Praga rig, which is just to the right of me. You guys can't see it right now. I'm sure Editor Chan will have lots of images, thank you. And before every race, I would sit down in the rig a couple of hours, not to sort of oversaturate myself, but a couple of hours before every race, just to sort of get the hang of a circuit I was going to be racing at in a car that was put together by a very good friend of mine. I'm not sure if he wants to name him or not, but I'm sure you can probably guess who it is. And whilst it's usually impossible to sort of make a 1-1 with a real-life version of the car, it was close enough to give me a running start at any circuit that I went to. Snetterton was actually the best example for me, because whilst it did rain in the race, in the dry I was quicker than my teammate, having never driven in that circuit before, ever, or even been to visit it before, I think only in my second race. So that was definitely in part to having that sim set up so on point, and AMS just has that potential, and like Assetto Corsa, it also has just a ton of awesome mods for it. Another game where you can just spend forever online putting in different mods and enjoying all that has to offer. And again, like Assetto Corsa, it comes up very often in sales on Steam, so you can also end up having all the AMS content for a similar sort of price as all the Assetto Corsa content. It's about £9 or so, £11 for the Ultimate Edition, which, when you think about it, £22 for all of Assetto Corsa and all of AMS is just amazing value. I can't tell you how great it is. Basically, this is a Yorkshire man gives you sim racing advice. Oh, great value that. You won't get better than that, I tell you that now for free. I always have a bit of a soft spot for the game, because we've done quite a few leagues in it. Most recently the Mushroom Cup League in Super Tourer cars, which have just been super fun, super amazing, and whilst it's not the most stable game online, it's still a game very close to my heart. So AMS in at number 3. So number 2, a game that, to be honest, I don't play as much as I really should, because, well, I'll get into why. But number 2 is Assetto Corsa Competizione. Jimmy salts the entirety of Italy and is cancelled. Oh no. I think ACC is one of the most important sims that has come out in the last 3-4 years or so. And the reason why I say that is because it's the first big boy sim, the first PC sim, to try and make its way over to console and do it well, from what I understand. And whilst it isn't a game I play a lot, and the reason for that is because it's just a GT3/GT4 simulator, there's nothing really else in there for the downforce/ crazy high power enthusiast in me. It is just a GT3 sim, but the reason why it's so high up on this little list of mine is because it does it better than anybody else by like significantly. Other sims have got closer recently, but the way that the ACC GT3s handle is, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's intuitive. You get in the car and you understand how to drive the thing quickly within a couple of laps. And not only that, the cars sound amazing, they look amazing, the graphics in ACC are really nice when you get it to run well. It used to be an absolute pig to try and get it to run properly. And I think what some people might consider a weakness for ACC, that it only has GT3s and GT4s, I actually consider it a bit of a strength, because it makes the player really hone in and learn on what makes a car fast in certain scenarios, and how different engine layouts, how different wheelbases actually affect this. For example, I mean, you can jump in to are glorious minty than Nissan GTR, and it will feel an absolute world away from something like a Porsche or an Audi, because the engine is right up the front in the GTR, it's heavy, it feels like a boat, whereas the Audi, it feels like it's dancing on the edge of grip all the time because you've got that engine behind you, it's rotating really well, and you notice that instantly going from car to car. I know that should be a given nowadays, but there are some games out there that still don't do that very well. And ACC just smashes it out the park. Add in the fact that you have things like rain, different weather conditions, different track conditions and tyres that really teach you that keeping in the optimum window is super important, though maybe it's a little bit too harsh of that sometimes. I think you have a game that really bridges that gap from sim to real. Although I will say it does need to work on its endurance style of thing. GT3 racing is usually a driver swap affair, and changing drivers in ACC isn't difficult, but it could be easier, I think. But despite that, ACC sitting firmly at number 2. Now, before I sort of get into number 1, I want to just give some honourable mentions, because this list is by no way exhaustive of what's out there, and I always encourage everybody to try everything, because my opinion, my feel, all those things can be somewhat subjective, and I don't want you to be watching this video and then limiting yourself based on this. Go and try everything because it is all good. But honourable mentions, first of all, R Factor 2, a game that I used to be absolutely in love with about 4 years ago, and it still feels damn good today. I jumped in a little bit just before this video to see how I was feeling about it and drove a couple of cars, and the way the tyres communicate through this force feedback, through the steering, is still something that I think is just unparalleled across any simulator. But I'd say just for me, in terms of driving and setup, it's still a game that is fairly difficult to jump into as a first-time sim racer. There's a lot of things you have to set. You have to know a little bit about the sim to sort of get the most out of it. And the tyres for me still feel a little bit slidey. I noticed that weird slip angle that RF2 seems to be now known for it's still there. What that basically means is the cars just, to go fastest, you have to drift them a little bit, like in GT cars, which isn't quite normal. A little bit of slip angle is normal, a big bit, not so much. Another honourable mention for me is Race Room. And the thing is about Race Room is I don't sort of stream it or make videos about it so much, despite the fact that I actually drive it quite a bit, because I really like driving it on my own, because there are some amazing cars in there. All the GTOs, the Group 5 cars, those cars just speak to me on some sort of visceral level. Group C cars in there as well, 92 DTM. If you are a fan of older motorsport and sort of the more obscure 90s stuff, 80s stuff, that sort of thing, Race Room's perfect. It's amazing, but I just feel it sort of lacks that polish compared to more modern titles. Given that this game is the sort of free-to-play model where you buy content as you go, there are sims out there that do that a lot better, and I think Race Room, if they want to compete, because they have the physics there, they have the cars that feel great there, but they just don't have sort of the shine of a new game, which I think if they worked on that a bit more, I reckon that they'd be a bit more of a contender. Also AMS2, and I know you guys might not be expecting me to mention this given things that may have happened in the past, but I've never actually come out and said that I disliked AMS2. I actually enjoy the game quite a lot as an immersive experience, as in like putting on my VR headset, shutting out the world, turning off my HUD, full storm conditions at a circuit like Spa or something like that. I love that shit, because you feel like you're in the car, you feel like you're actually wrestling this car around in conditions that are a bit tricky. It's just that for me, the driving and sort of dry weather driving isn't quite there for me, or what I enjoy from a driving experience. Perhaps I don't understand it, perhaps I'll have, again, people in the comments telling me how wrong I am. AMS2 for me has been one of those games where I've received the most flack for not just loving it unconditionally. But I still say go give it a try. It remains still one of the most accessible titles in sim racing. You can boot up the game, set your controls, jump into a car and track you like, and have a good time very easily. And there's a lot to be said for that. So definitely one worth checking out if you want to just jump in and drive. And also BeamMG, just because that game is awesome fun and it's becoming more and more of a simulator every time I play it in terms of driving. In terms of physics, in terms of cars just absolutely shitting themselves when you hit anything, the game is there. That does that better than any other sim title on the market. So there is something to be said for that, but for pure driving experience, maybe give it a couple more months. But it is finally time to get into my current favourite sim in 2022, and yes, it does count because it's January 2nd, so be quiet. And that sim is, of course, iRacing. So iRacing has been around now since, I think it's 2008. Yet I can safely say until now it's never really sat as my favourite simulator. There's always been, in my opinion, sims that have done stuff better than iRacing, to the point that it actually sort of doesn't matter that iRacing has this great online system. I just didn't want to drive the cars in the game. But now in 2022, with iRacing seemingly sorting out their tyre model, which was always the biggest downside for me in the sim, and getting more and more engaging and interesting content in the sim, including of course the very recent W12 Mercedes F1 car, which is, I think, has just taken the platform by storm. That car is just unreal to drive. It is amazing. These things just serve to elevate iRacing into the sim that I all think we knew it could be if it just got its collective shit together. When you have things like laser scan the cars that also sound the part and feel the part and have just infinite setup options for you to get lost into, and circuits that are all laser scanned as well. It seems that laser scanning nowadays is the bare minimum for a track, but I think people sometimes forget that that's just every track in iRacing has had that treatment. And of course the online system that we have to talk about, because even though I'm a sim racing GP partner and we're trying our best to match iRacing in other sims, iRacing is still just the industry leader, and it's not perfect, the online stuff. The no blame system for crashes can be quite frustrating if you're someone that maybe gets caught up in one too many T1 incidents that are not your fault. And netcode is still a thing, and I think will always be a thing in iRacing's sort of prediction system online. But for me, the online system in iRacing, with the iRating and safety rating, of course, meaning that you have to keep safe whilst going quick to be in the good races, I just think it's a great system. And even though it's been around since 2008, it's not been beaten yet. But iRacing does not come without its drawbacks. And the biggest drawback for me, I think, just has to be the cost of the thing. Me and a couple of guys in Discord before this video worked out how much money it would cost to purchase every single bit of content if you purchased it at full price, which, to be fair to iRacing, wouldn't be how you buy it, because there are things like bulk buy deals, there are sales fairly often on membership and stuff like that. And once you own a certain amount of content, you get discounts pretty much for life anyway. But if none of that applied and you bought every little bit of content, and this is even before you've paid your membership, you're looking somewhere around $3,000. Which is obscene, frankly. To iRacing's credit, there is now a lot more free content than there used to be. I think it's something like 20 odd free cars now, and a fair few free circuits and legacy circuits as well. But if you want to go and race, you know, every circuit, every car, and have a similar experience to, say, AMS, where every car is just there for you to drive out the box, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Unlucky enough, over the years, I've had about 40,000 referral codes from you guys, so I was able to purchase every bit of content myself. But I can understand if that barrier to entry is too much, because of course you've got to buy a sim rig on top of that as well. So it is expensive, but the actual experience of the game for me is just, it's one of the reasons why I find myself in it more and more nowadays. I'm just loving the competitive element. I'm loving how the cars are driving. And if you do want to get into it, there are cheaper ways of doing it. Just be aware that it is a bit of a money sink. Also, rain when iRacing. Come on now. So guys, that is my top 5 favourite sims currently in 2022. I know it might be a little bit contentious to make a video like this, but I thought it would be a nice discussion point. And as always, I am really interested to see what you guys think in the comments below. Feel free to put your top 5 down there as well, and the reasons for it, because my point of view as stupid YouTuber is no more important than you, the cuties watching at home. So feel free to put your opinions down below in the comment. If you did enjoy the video, feel free to tap that like button, subscribe, do all that good stuff, as well as hitting the bell notification icon. Smash that bell, baby! I just said that out loud. I'm going to now just fall into a hole and die. And a massive thank you to my Patreons and sponsors. I'll be looking to revamp my Patreon very soon to give you guys a little bit more for your money, so keep an eye out for that. Take care, have an awesome day, see you all next time.